So that guy I met on eHarmony?
Yeah?
We're out together last night and I step off a curb and snap, heel breaks right off my shoe.
Oh, no.
So I say, hell with it, take them off so I'm barefoot, and you'll never guess.
What?
He leans over, takes off his shoes and socks, and now we're both...
You're joking.
Amazing, right?
At eHarmony, you'll find someone you can be yourself with. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up for eHarmony today.
Finding someone that understands you is hard because you're human, and there's a lot of different humans out there. eHarmony helps you find someone you can be yourself with. You think no one would understand mourning a plant like it's a loved one, or singing made-up songs to your dog, but that's the type of person eHarmony helps you find. Someone who makes you feel seen, heard, and understood. Get started today on eHarmony. Get who gets you.
Whatever breakthrough you like to create for yourself, there's a monster lurking under your bed or in your closet that's blocking your transformation without you even realizing it's there. Today, we're going to talk about how to find it and what to do with it once you do. Your breakthrough is waiting for you. Let's remove the barriers to your transformation. You're listening to the Health Courage Collective Podcast, episode 185, The Monster Under Your Bed That's Preventing Your Breakthrough.
Welcome to the Health Courage Collective Podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go.
Hi, I'm so happy to be able to spend a few minutes with you today. How's your toe strength? I hope you remember how vitally important toe strength can be to your independence. It's not something we typically think of, but we should. Foot strength also helps us to reduce years of potential chronic pain. It's huge. Today we're going to talk about a monster that's sabotaging your ability to close the gap between who you're capable of being and who you're actually being so that you don't have to slowly stop living before you die. Scary. Did you ever believe there was a monster under your bed or in your closet? I wish you could tell me about it because I never did. But when I was a kid and when my kids were kids, I loved the book Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak. Who am I kidding? I still do. It's fabulous. I have such fond memories of my little toddlers reciting it from memory in their little toddler voices as I turned the pages. And I very much enjoyed watching Monsters, Inc. with my boys when they were little. We also have an awesome kids book called Eleanor the Terrible Monster that I read thousands of times with my kids. Eleanor was a terrible monster. She couldn't do anything right. Mo Willems is the best kids book author ever. So I guess I only have good monster memories because I always knew that those kind of monsters were fiction. But there are a few different kinds of real life monsters that I for sure wouldn't want to encounter or find under my bed, like social media influencers. Also serial killers and con men and child molesters and such. Whatever a monster is to you, if there were always one lurking under your bed or in your closet or in the backseat of your car or your desk drawers at work, you'd alter your behavior, right? You'd have to be constantly hyper-aware and stop doing a lot of things the way you normally would if there weren't a monster hiding in the shadows. Life would probably be more enjoyable if you pretended it wasn't there, but you could never quite be carefree and uninhibited. You could learn to coexist with a monster, but it would, in large part, determine your actions. Your life would be different because of it. In the book, The 12-Week Year, the authors talk about what they call resistance monsters. Cute, right? Think about how your behavior would be altered by a monster lurking around in your life. We all have them. We all have our own unique resistance monsters that prevent us from taking actions we know are in our best interest. We logically know what we could or should do to increase the odds that we'll have drastically fewer health problems 10 or 20 years down the road. The problem is that we feel like we can't rise to the challenge of doing those things because of the resistance monsters that are hiding in the shadows of our consciousness. Resistance monsters are the barriers to change that prevent you from making a breakthrough. That's important to know if you want to have a breakthrough in any area of your life. It won't happen unless you can get past your resistance monster. But these monsters are tricky little buggers, so tricky that we don't even realize that they're there. We have no idea that they're controlling us on a subconscious level. They just lurk around and surreptitiously convince us that things are true. And we never question those truths. Why would we? They feel as true as the law of gravity or the law of magnetism or the law that you'll see the one person you desperately want to impress at Costco the one time you go there looking like death warmed over. How do you begin to argue with unquestioned truths? Luckily, we've all been taught how. The trick is really all about being able to correctly identify a monster as a monster. Because once we do, we all know that we can wear our wolf suit and make mischief of one kind and another and get sent to bed without supper. And a forest grows in our room until the ceiling hangs with vines and the walls become the world all around. We sail in and out of weeks and over a year to where the wild things are. And then they roar their terrible roars and gnash their terrible teeth and roll their terrible eyes and show their terrible claws. And we know what to do, right? We yell, "Be still," and tame them with the magic trick of staring into all their yellow eyes without blinking once. That's it. That's how you tame a resistance monster. You stare into their yellow eyes without blinking once. Then they'll make you queen of all the wild things, and you can let the wild rumpus start. Which I think is a great way to describe whatever breakthrough you're looking to create in your life. I love the different looks and personalities of each of Maurice Sendak's different monsters. What might our different resistance monsters look like? Knowing that you don't have enough time to add something new to your life? Knowing that you're not the type of person that can pull something off? Something you want for sure being too expensive or too complicated? Knowing that making a particular change will suck all the fun and pleasure out of your life? That doing the things you know you should will result in a joyless existence? That doing things differently than the rest of your family will alienate them? That some ideals are just too restrictive for you? Knowing that you don't have enough willpower? That having failed a change in the past means you will fail at it again in the future? How about things you think you don't like? I think that's huge. I think it feels very true to know what you do and don't like. But I promise it's more malleable than you think, and you can absolutely learn to love the things that are best for you. We can all get thrown off by the lurking monsters of having too many goals to be able to properly focus on just one, or the innate need for immediate gratification. We all have it. It doesn't mean that we're less than. Feeling like we have to wait for our circumstances to change to be able to start making the changes that we want can be a monster. Or believing that our circumstances won't allow us to do anything great. A huge monster we all have is our ingrained patterns. Reacting to events and circumstances the same way we always have. We all do that without realizing it and without realizing all the transformational results that are real options for us if we habitually do things differently or see things differently. Your breakthrough is waiting for you on the other side of where the wild things are. All you have to do is get past your personal resistance monsters first. And the first step to that is recognizing those vague, unnamed feelings as the resistance monsters that they are. The belief you have about what you're capable of. Beliefs about what's possible for you in your 80s based on your family history. Beliefs about what resources you have available to you as a regular, i.e. not uber rich and famous, woman. Beliefs about what parts of aging are inevitable. Beliefs about how much willpower you have access to. Beliefs about how difficult or time-consuming healthy choices have to be. Those are the resistance monsters that are roaring their terrible roars and gnashing their terrible teeth. Once you can see them for the monsters that they are, the monsters that are preventing you from closing the gap between who you're capable of being and who you're actually being, and therefore reaching the breakthrough that you're after, you're essentially staring in their yellow eyes without blinking. You're loosening their hold on you, which lowers the barriers to the future you want to create. One way to get to the breakthrough on the other side of the monsters is to make them disappear. Kill the monster, if you will. But I don't think it's the only way. Monsters have a lot of energy and strength. What if you could make them your ally instead of your enemy? Use those unsettled emotions and doubts and discouragements to fuel you rather than hold you back. How do you think you might do that? Can you picture the resentment about not having all the money or time that a famous person has, making you enjoy the resources that you do have more? Or the discouragement of what feels biologically inevitable, making you more enthusiastic about aging in good health? The dismal state of your confidence in your own willpower, firing you up to see what amazingly hard stuff you're actually capable of? Doing something different than your family as creating more connection rather than less? Disappointment in yourself as fuel for growth rather than regret? Think about a breakthrough that you'd love to have. What are your personal resistance monsters blocking your arrival there? How can you partner with them to borrow some of their energy when you need it most? Imagine yourself feeling the resistance monster and then using that energy to your advantage. It might not be that easy at first. In her book, The Places That Scare You, which seems like a good book to reference for a discussion about going to places where monsters are sabotaging your life, Pema Chodron says, acknowledging that we are all churned up is the first, most difficult step in any practice. Without compassionate recognition that we are stuck, it's impossible to liberate ourselves from confusion. Doing something different is anything that interrupts our ancient habit of indulging our emotions. Without compassionate recognition that we are stuck, it's impossible to liberate ourselves from confusion. Doing something different is anything that interrupts our ancient habit of indulging in our emotions. We do anything to cut the strong tendency to spin out. Anything that's not habitual will do. Even sing and dance and run around the block. We do anything that doesn't reinforce our crippling habits. The third most difficult practice is to then remember that this is not something we do just once or twice. Interrupting our destructive habits and awakening our heart is the work of a lifetime." End quote. It's pretty much a guarantee that killing our resistance monsters or befriending them and using their power for good is not going to be easy. We'll have to remind ourselves over and over and over and over to try to do so. I love what Pema Chodron says, though, that if we can just realize that we feel all churned up about something, we've completed the most difficult step in the process toward transformation. Once we see that we're emotional about something, all we have to do is something different. Stand up, lay down, turn on some music, pet your fuzzy bunny, dance, run, take a shower, go for a drive. Anything not habitual you can do to interrupt your resistance monster will loosen its hold on you. Then, remember to do that again next time. Back in episode 168, K. Margaret Solario talked about having a menu of things you can do to change your energetic state. This is perfect for this. When you feel all churned up, disappointed, frustrated, discouraged, stuck, lost, whatever it is for you, as long as you can do the difficult step of realizing that's what's going on, all you have to do is glance at your menu and pick something that sounds good. Play the piano, rock on your porch swing, do a yoga pose, carve something, change the oil in your car, anything to interrupt the spin out that can often come from the resistance monster. I know for me, when I have a goal that I'm excited about or something that I'm working on, I always have times when I get pretty demoralized and come to the realization that what I thought I could do is, in fact, impossible. And who do I think I am for even trying? It comes in waves. It used to be a constant fluctuation back and forth for me, one side then the other. I was crazy for thinking I could do this. Actually, I was crazy for thinking I can't do this. Back and forth, back and forth. I'd like to think that I've shifted that in the past few years. What really helped me is just realizing that that's normal. It's not an indication that something has gone wrong. It doesn't mean that I should stop trying. I would just think, okay, this is the part where I feel really crappy. Keep going. I didn't realize that this was a resistance monster at the time, but that I could potentially harness its power to help me. But just realizing that feeling all churned up, as Pema Chodron put it, isn't a problem or a stop sign is powerful stuff. Then taking the next step of doing something different and maybe even using that emotional energy to your benefit can really make a difference. In his book, Time Warrior, Coach Steve Chandler says, "I keep daydreaming a scene I'd like to put in a book or movie. A madman Me, why not? Lives in a mental ward. Me? Yeah, it fits. Each day they'd let this man into the recreation room. He's in his pajamas. He sits down at the circular table. The attending gives him a big blank pad of paper and a box of crayons. He takes out the crayons and draws the head of a monster. He stares at the monster, screams, and runs out of the room. The whole thing looks funny to the attendant. It looks, shall we say, insane. The poor madman is scaring himself to death. And as crazy as that looks, we ourselves do that each day. We use our crayons, or our imaginations, to scare ourselves instead of to create. End quote. How do you use your crayons? To draw monsters that scare you to death? Or to create wild thing friends that can help you get where you want to go? To the wild rumpus of living more as you get older rather than less, of being proud of how you showed up every day, of avoiding the health challenges that are common in your family, of having enough energy to make a difference for someone you care about. Your breakthrough is waiting for you. Don't let your resistance monsters prevent you from getting there, because the world needs you and your unique style of wild rumpus. I promise you, the world is better when you're fully alive. If you need help overcoming or befriending your resistance monsters or just identifying them, I am here for you. You can always send me a message through my website at healthcouragecollective.com or email me at healthcouragecollective@gmail.com. I'd be interested to hear from you. Next week, we're going to talk about why you should stop exercising. Until then, roar your terrible roar and don't be normal.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.